What's up, you guys? Michael Elefante here. Let's talk about some of the common money mistakes that we as people make on a day-to-day basis, and honestly, a more minimalist approach to personal finance in general. Depending on what study you look at, there's many of them out there over the past few decades. Around 70% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck, meaning they are completely reliant on their next paycheck in order to pay for their bills. And I know the immediate knee-jerk reaction is to say, look, Michael, that may be the case, but most of these people aren't making enough money. And while there's some truth to that, would it surprise you if I told you that for families making between $50,000 and $100,000 a year, 1 in 3 of those families are currently living paycheck to paycheck? And what's even more surprising is families making over $150,000 a year, 1 in 4 of those families have been found to be living paycheck to paycheck as well. I honestly think that the cold-hearted truth is that as a society, we just have never really been taught about money or personal finance in general. And on top of that, we currently live in the most advanced digital age in history. And for the majority of you guys watching, I'm guilty of it too at times. We spend hours a day on our phones scrolling through various social media apps, and we are subconsciously comparing ourselves to others. And we're also constantly bombarded by advertisements, even on Instagram or Facebook or watching television. These advertisements are a constant reminder of all the things that we don't have, and we, again, subconsciously trick ourselves into thinking that we need those items, and if we have those particular items, it will make our lives better. All these things added together is what creates the keeping up with the Joneses mentality that honestly has plagued our society. And sadly, the thing that honestly keeps people poor is even when they get pay raises and start making maybe even high 6 figures, they convince themselves to spend money on more expensive liabilities, things like a nicer car, right? You deserve it, a nicer house, a nicer apartment to rent, nicer clothes, and the list goes on. And I'm guilty of this too, just as anybody. Actually, the first job I had out of college, as soon as I got a promotion that came with a pay bump, what did I do? I went out and bought a dream truck, and it's something that I knew I could afford based on a monthly budget, but it was not conducive to my long-term financial success. We're also trained to buy things on debt, things that we cannot afford today, and just don't worry, pay it off later. Cars, houses, and then anything on a credit card. And as we accumulate debt as an individual or as a family, it becomes harder and harder to dig ourselves out of that hole. So let's talk about 2 basic concepts about money and personal finance that you guys may be able to adopt. And honestly, these are simple concepts, but they are ingredients for a winning formula. Number 1 is spend less than you make. Spending less than you make sounds extremely elementary and very simple, but unfortunately, a lot of people do not take this concept to heart. They rack up credit card debt and unfortunately have the mindset of, I'll buy it today and pay it off later. So spending less than we make will allow us to stay out of debt, and if you're in debt today, it'll actually help you pay off those debts faster. And in addition, whatever you save on top of what you spend, the money left over is going to be able to invest in other assets or the stock market or real estate or whatever you guys have interest in investing your money in. Now, as your income increases over time, right, through pay raises, promotions, whatever it may be, instead of convincing yourself to spend the extra money on a nicer apartment, so increased rent, buying a nicer car, a nicer house, nicer clothes, try saving the majority of the extra money and investing that money and continue to live a little more of a minimalist lifestyle, at least for the time being, because that money saved up and invested today will pay dividends in the future. Now let's talk about concept number 2, which is assets versus liabilities. And let's not overcomplicate this. It's quite this simple. Assets are things that you buy or invest in that put money into your pocket every single month, and liabilities are things that you buy or spend money on that take money out of your pocket every single month. On the asset side, we have things like real estate, investing in rental properties. If you invest in precious metals like gold or silver, invest in the stock market. And on the liability side, we have things like your own personal house, so a mortgage payment, cars, anything that you buy with the credit card. A new phone, shoes, clothes, whatever. All these things are liabilities because, again, it takes money out of our pocket. Now, there's really a bad stigma with most millennials and Gen Zs which doesn't really sit well with me, which is I don't have enough money to invest. And I do not like this mindset because while some people think that it takes a tremendous amount of money to invest, it really doesn't. You can invest in index funds, things where you can actually invest, $50 a month, $100 a month, whatever you can afford to invest. I encourage you guys to do it. And what bothers me is that the same people that say they do not have enough money to invest are the same people that typically have the newest iPhone that costs $1,000 to buy. They have new clothes. They're going out to eat at nice restaurants, right? They're doing all these things and they're spending money on liabilities. And there's one guarantee when you spend money on these things is that money is spent and it's gone, right? It might bring you immediate satisfaction having a new phone. I get that. Having new clothes. I get that. Treating yourself to a nice meal every once in a while. I understand. But over the long run, it pays to invest your money in assets, right? Things that will grow over time. Let's go back to the credit card concept for a second. If a high interest credit card charges you 25% interest on anything that you do not pay in that statement balance, think about paying for a $1,000 iPhone all on a credit card, but you can't pay that off that month. You're gonna end up paying 25% on that $1,000. So if you just do simple math, you're gonna end up paying $1,250 for a $1,000 iPhone. Now here's a simple way to avoid this, right? This is a little mind trick. What do you guys think when you go into a store and you see 25% off or maybe 30% off for a limited time only? In your mind, you do shopper's math, right? I'm gonna save that much money. If you spend $100, I'm gonna save $25 by buying this today, right? That's a mind trick that retail has played on people for, over a century, probably many centuries. Now let's reverse this mentality and think about buying things with credit cards. What if you were to go into a store and on that price tag there was a slash through the pricing and instead of $100 it says it's now $125? I know what most of you would probably think, like I would, and I would think, you're crazy, why would I buy that for $125? Yet we're the same people who buy the $100 item with the credit card and ultimately pay $125 with $25 in the form of interest. So if you use that as a little mind trick, you can kind of convince yourself to not pay for things that you cannot afford today. Now, for those watching, I honestly think the most crucial thing that you can do today to kickstart your journey in personal finance and to financial freedom is to keep track of a personal budget every single month. Now, there's dozens of apps online or on your phone that you can use. I personally use a spreadsheet because honestly, it holds me more accountable. If I have to manually enter in every dollar I spend and then also manually enter in all my paychecks each month, I can see exactly what categories I'm spending too much money in. And maybe I'm not saving enough one month. Maybe if I spend a little less eating out, right? Or maybe going out for drinks with friends and spend more money on just groceries and eating at home or hanging out with friends at the house, I could save an extra $150 a month by just eliminating some of those simple costs. So by having a personal budget and keeping track of your money inflows and your money outflows, you guys are gonna have a much better understanding of where you currently sit financially. Now, if you guys can save an extra $150 per month, now all of a sudden you don't have the excuse of I don't have enough money to invest. Now let's just talk and do some simple math using compound interest calculators on what $150 invested can do for you. If you start with $150 and then invest $150 every single month for 10 years at a compounded annual growth rate of 8%, you would have invested a total of $18,150, but your money would have grown to $28,485.72. Now it's even more powerful and shows the power of compound interest over the course of time. If you continued to save and invest $150 every single month, but now did it for 30 total years at that same 8% growth rate, you will now have $221,731.96. Now that's how powerful investing or buying assets is, right? So instead of spending that $150 every single month on liabilities, if you guys just sock away $150, even if it's just in an index fund or an IRA or whatever it is, if you just wanna set it and forget it, invest in those things, you guys, it will help set you financially free and be financially independent later down the road. Now, I'm willing to bet that for the most of you all watching that if you can resist the temptation to buy things that have short-lived satisfaction, but instead work to save and invest some of your money every single month, you're going to be much more satisfied being debt-free and financially free years down the road. Because just remember this, and this is something that changed the way I think about money, is if you buy that new pair of shoes or that new iPhone, those things are replaceable and you're going to replace them over the course of your lifetime, right? Something that is not replaceable is time. Every single minute that goes by is gone and you will never get that minute back. So if you are able to save and invest and become financially free sooner, that means you're going to be able to have more time to spend with your friends and family and less time working on paying off debt and things of that nature. So think about things in the concept of time. I hope you guys found value in this video, but I honestly want to hear from you. Please drop your comments below. Tell me about your money saving tips. What are you guys investing your money in? How have you figured out how to budget your money better each month? And honestly, I think talking about money and personal finance is typically a sensitive topic. And I would love for it to be more open and broadly talked about, because at the end of the day, the more we talk about it and share ideas and successes with each other, the better we're all gonna be and the better financial situation that we're all gonna end up being in. Thank you guys so much for taking the time to watch this video. If you don't mind, hit the subscribe button, like it if you found some value in it, and I hope to see you guys in the future.